Amazing. So yeah, welcome everyone. So like I said, pop in the chat your name and where you're from. I desperately want to know where you're all coming from today. And we are going to be talking about inner child healing and where to start. So it's such a big topic. It is such a big topic. And I've done my best to cram in as much as I can into an hour. So it's yeah, we're just going to do the best that we can. We may run over ever so slightly, but if you do kind of need to pop off at the end, that's absolutely fine. So today, what we're going to be doing is this. So what you need for this workshop, you need an open mind for a start. You need a pen, some paper to write down some stuff, and a place where you won't be disturbed, hopefully. And with this, we may be bringing up some stuff that might be a little bit difficult. We might be bringing up things which, might feel a little bit sore. So I really would love to encourage you to look after yourself today. I really want you to take care of yourself. And if the workshop becomes too much, then feel free to leave at any time. You will have the recording, so you're not going to miss out on anything. But your number one job today is to make sure that you're okay as we go through this, okay? So take a minute, grab the stuff that you need, get some water. And what we're going to do is we're going to just start off with a quote. So I don't normally bother with Tony Robbins because he's quite an intense character for me, but I imagine the reason why some of you are here and why I started my own inner child journey is because change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So sometimes we get to that point where we're just so done with the way that things are and we want to change. Or you might just be here for a completely different reason. You might want to just be oh, I'm just really curious about inner child and want to get into it that way. But for me, this was the perspective that I came from. So today, what are we going to cover? We're going to cover what is your inner child. We're going to cover my own story. It's not going to be a workshop where it's all about me and how I'm triumphant, because I hate those types of workshops. It's going to be a snapshot to say where I came from and where I am now, to show that recovery is possible and you can reset your subconscious mind. You can reset everything, okay? We're going to talk about parental wounds, which I feel get missed when we talk about inner child healing. We have got a little inner child healing myth quiz because I'm going to be testing your knowledge. And then we're going to talk about how you start to heal your inner child, okay? Is everybody okay with that? Put 111 in the chat if you're down with that. We will be using the chat a lot today rather than speaking and using our mics. So yeah, if we're all good, just put 111 in the chat. And then I want us to think about, what is our inner child? Explain to me in the chat, guys. What is the inner chat? The inner chat? The inner child? What is the inner chat? Inner child. Does anybody know? If you've been watching my Instagram, you should all bloody know. Okay. I'm going to say, oh, that is probably such a beautiful answer. It's the part of us that we have to cherish and protect. That's gorgeous. I love that. The younger version of you who soaks things up like a sponge. And yes, the younger vision of you. And yeah, it's the little you inside. Perfect, guys. The playful. Yes, I love it. Yes. Amazing answers, guys. So yeah, you have been paying attention. Fantastic. So the inner child isn't like a woo-woo bullshit made up thing. The inner child is basically, it's like a psychological theory which says that within us we have a little child. There is a part of us that retains the qualities, emotions and vulnerabilities of our childhood self. And I think this is such a good vision, because if I said to you, oh, everything lives in your subconscious mind, and that's where everything is, sometimes it doesn't really you're okay, well, what is that? What does it look like? What does it feel like? But when we can imagine it being a smaller version of ourselves, it creates such a nice way to connect to that part of ourselves. And our inner child can influence a person's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And when we go into this sort of work, we're exploring it. We're often doing it in a therapeutic or self-help practice. And we're working on the unresolved issues from childhood, such as healing emotional wounds and that fostering that self-compassion. And self-compassion is the number one cornerstone in this work, which we will touch on later. And then when we start to touch into our inner child, we may have insights into our patterns and behavior, overcome past traumas, and develop healthier relationship with ourselves, but also the people around us, which is amazing. So the things that could mean that your inner child needs some support today could be that you have reoccurring negative patterns and you don't know why. Like you literally say to yourself, why the fuck do I do that? Like I do it and I hate that I do it. You may be like having difficulties with a relationship, which can show up in, conflict, difficulty with intimacies. There may be fear of abandonment. Like I really love this person and I don't want them to leave. You may have some low self-esteem. There may be some fear of rejection or abandonment, like I just said. People pleasing. I'm a people pleaser in recovery. Like I used to do this all the time. I used to have difficulty setting and reinforcing boundaries, self-sabotage, unexplained emotional reactions. So what I always say is that if it's hysterical, then it's historical, because if you're having an over emotional reaction to something, it's probably because something happened to you before and you're being triggered. We will cover what triggers are in a little bit as well. Perfectionism always comes up as well, anxiety and depression, and difficulty to express emotions. So now you're probably thinking like, oh my God, she's just calling me out on all my shit. What's going on? But also it's a really good sign that you're here. But these are just some of the common signs that can show up when we have stuff going on within us that needs addressing. So I'm just going to do a quick whistle stop overview of my story. I actually wrote some notes down because otherwise I'll chat on forever and ever. So because it's my story, I know it. So I'm gonna just be very, very straightforward with my story. So as a child, I don't remember anything. Where our brain is very, very clever. So I want you to imagine your life as a film reel, and say a traumatic incident happens like in the middle here. Your brain will cut that memory and then just go, okay, I'm going to put that in a box now because this traumatic event happened in the middle. So you may cut out good things as well as bad things. And then your brain, imagine it, puts it in a little box and goes, you never need to remember that because your brain is protecting you. Sometimes these memories come back, sometimes they don't. It just depends on your ability to tap into them, if you are in a space where you're mentally able to tap into them or not. But it's not vital for you to be able to do that if you wanted to heal your inner child, because trauma lives in the body as well as lives in your mind and spiritually. Again, we will get into all of this, and that just was like a little bit of a tangent to why sometimes you may not remember your childhood, you may not remember big aspects of your childhood, and that's actually really normal. So I grew up, my mum was disabled, my mum and my dad got married, and my mum just married him because she wanted a baby, being straight up. And so my dad left when I was 2 because there was cheating, there was infidelity, there was domestic violence between them. And as I grew up, I always used to say to myself, oh, I don't need a dad. Like I've got my mum and I've got my nan, and I just never felt like I missed out. But actually I really, really did. So I didn't have any sort of male template. So when we have our mum or a father or a female caregiver or a male caregiver, we create templates with these people, and they then are the relationship templates that we put onto other people. So I didn't have one for men. So how did that look like? I didn't have a strong male role model. My mum never had a boyfriend growing up. I never really knew how to talk to men or to act appropriately around men. I would also be very avoidant towards men as well, because a lot of the narrative in my family were women talking very negatively about men. So with all of that, I just didn't really have a good template for men. So then obviously when I grow up, guess what? I'd have shit show of relationships because I had no template to be like, oh, this is what a healthy and a good relationship is. And then with my mum, she was a single mum. She did her best. And this is going to sound so controversial, but she did her best, but it didn't meet all my needs. And that's okay. She did her best, but she was very critical. She would shout a lot. There was a lot of physical, like smacking and things like that as well. I was always told to be quiet. I was exposed to trauma. And then when you look at like the different layers of trauma, like I was exposed to trauma, that's your accumulative, okay? Your accumulative trauma is the trauma that you experience in your lifetime. Then like the domestic violence and the violence from her father, so my grandfather, that happened when I was in the womb. That's gestational trauma. So the fear and the stress that my mum was feeling when I was in the womb, I would feel it and it would live in me as well. Then, you know, the generational trauma and the genetic trauma is the domestic violent relationship between my mum and my dad, but also my nan and my granddad, my great nan and my granddad. It just goes on and on. So it sometimes it's not about like it's starting with you. Sometimes it's about it ending with you in those generational patterns. And my nan died when I was 16, and she was like my mum. She was definitely like my mum, and that completely rattled me. And I think as I grew up and I started to have like these really difficult relationships with men and women, struggled to keep friends, struggled to function, struggled at work, I was like, oh, I kind of really need to look at this part of myself, which is a really painful thing to do. And I think if you start to do this work, it's a very, very brave thing to do. So what I started to do is I started to go to therapy, and then the counselor started like talking all about inner child work, and I was like, oh, this is great. So unsupervised, I went onto Google and I started doing some exercises, and I completely crumbled, completely. Why? Because I did not have a solid foundation in place to take care of myself. Like when you go through this work, you need to have a solid foundation. And if you don't, I ended up just being in what I call a healing crisis, where I had brought up all this stuff, but I had no idea what to do with it. I had no idea how to deal with it because I was just like, I don't know. And I would just be like crying for what would seem no reason. I would be highly emotional, all of this stuff. And then eventually I started to work on the self-compassion and the self-love. And that created my foundation and allowed me to go deeper and to do the healing. And something that people always say to me is that I'm so jealous, not so jealous, so apprehensive of doing the work because I'm scared I'm going to really ruin the relationship with my parents. But actually, I have much more love for my mum now and much more compassion and empathy for my mum now than I ever did. And I think that by doing this work, it actually saved my relationship with my mum. And yeah, it obviously led me to be here to talk about all of this stuff now as well. And I've also developed a 3-part journey about healing your inner child, which we're going to cover later. And what does life like, life look like after healing your inner child? It looks like I have boundaries. I never used to have boundaries. I'm an empath, so they are a bit wobbly sometimes, and that's just me, and that's okay. I'm very compassionate with myself. I do have the ability to let go. I feel like I drew a line under the stuff with my mum and I could move forward. I feel like really proud of breaking the ancestral patterns and breaking that ancestral line because it didn't start with me, but it's ended with me. And everybody I have contact with is going to benefit from that. And then, I'm more confident in who I am. Now I don't give a shit. I'm just me. Like, I'm just me. I used to think about it like how I'd always try and fit and mold into what other people wanted. But actually, now I'm just me. And I just feel like the benefits are absolutely endless. So I feel like that is plenty about me, but it just shows you that you can come from somewhere that's really dark and you can move through it and you can like heal, you can move forward and start to really have a good relationship with yourself and with those around you. So with all that being said, I'd really love you just to focus on you for a second and ask yourself, how connected do you feel to your own inner child? 1 being like, I'm not connected at all, and 10 being like, I'm so freaking connected. I feel like we're a team and everything kind of feels like I know where it comes from and what I'm doing. This is a private score. You won't be asked to share, but if anything has stood out for me from my story or from the things that we spoke about before my story, this is a good time to write it down because these are going to be prominent things for you. So I'm going to give you a minute or two to just have a little reflection on that. And then when you're ready to move on, put 111 in the chat. Jules is on it. She's like, I know this. Yes, everyone's on it. I love it. Amazing. So we're going to move on to the 3 parts of inner child healing. So when I created this diagram, just because I just felt like it was really easy to get your head around. So in the middle is you, okay? Now, we are talking about inner child healing specifically. We're not talking about everything that ever happened to us as a child, okay? Because outside of this, we could have peers, bullying, this thing, that thing, whatever. But we are just focusing on the core that set up our belief system, okay? So inner child healing, you, obviously, you need to create that connection with yourself. Then we look at mother or female caregiver or father or male caregiver. And these are like big chunks of work. Often I never see people talk about inner child healing with all 3 of these elements, which for me all come together so strongly. Because imagine you do all the work on you, but there's still a lot of resentment or anger towards your mother or father. You're still carrying that. That's still a wound. That's still not going to allow you to move forward. Okay. This is why it's really important for all 3 elements to come together. Okay. So next up, we have got, what are parental wounds? So basically, our parents and our caregivers did the best that they could. And in reality, sometimes it just wasn't good enough for us, leaving us with wounds. And this could be leaving us feeling like love is conditional, or that we have unrealistic expectations, or our parents being emotionally unavailable. Okay, the consequences may manifest in low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, difficulty forming healthy connections, and so many more things we're going to talk about on the next slide. But healing from parental wounds often involves self-reflection and practices like inner child work to address and overcome the lasting impact of these early experiences. And again, promoting that self-compassion. I feel like if I paid everybody £1 for every time I say self-compassion in this thing, you'd all be rich. And the aim of it is to have a healthier relationship in adulthood. Okay. So stuff that could come up for us when we have parental wounds: avoidance to vulnerability. Oh no, don't you get too close. I don't want you to hurt me. Difficulty trusting people. We might have guilt or shame about our past, and guilt or shame is like mud that you get stuck in. It really does hold you where you are. You cannot move forward when you carry guilt and shame, okay? You may be repeating unhealthy relationship patterns. You may be in a cycle with men or with your partners. You may have unhealthy relationship patterns with friends, or even just with yourself, okay? You may have a constant need for approval or external validation. You might have negative attachments. You may be attached to really toxic people in your life. There may be addictive behavior. So this might be you being addicted to your phone, anything that's going to give you a dopamine hit. Okay. That might be drugs, alcohol, shopping, anything. Okay. There may be a lack of self-identity. You might feel really scared to just be your real authentic self, which is beautiful, by the way. You should always be yourself. And you might have some anger and resentment. And this can go 2 ways. You could be over dependent. So you could be codependent, which basically means you rely on everybody for everything, and you cannot really make decisions for yourself. You kind of go, oh, well, what do you think? Rather than you making decisions for yourself. This was something which was so huge for me, like so huge for me. And yeah, hyper independence. I don't need anybody. I can do this all myself. Okay, sorry, I'm calling everybody out, but I'm calling myself out a bit as well. But okay, we've talked about the things that can affect us, but what happens when we do the work? We step into the benefits, the good things. Okay, so the benefits of your inner child healing. Okay, we are talking about improved emotional regulation. We are talking about increased self-esteem and confidence, and improved quality of life, ability to embrace your authentic self, being empowered, better in relationships, better boundaries, stopping people pleasing. Because sometimes we have to sacrifice our own needs for somebody else, but if it's at the detriment of us, no, that's all gotta go. You're healing the past trauma. You have increased resilience. So when things go wrong, you can bounce back. There's stress reduction. There's improved mental health. You can enhance self-compassion. Again, self-compassion. Hello. There's greater self-love and deeper emotional connection to self, and so much more. This is just all I could fit on the page. So there are so many benefits to doing this work, okay? And I know, like, I wish I could sit here and say I'm gonna tell you this thing and it's gonna be as easy as one, two, three, and it's gonna be really freaking easy, because this work isn't. It's looking at really deep and sore things, but it's absolutely worth doing it. And something that is life-changing isn't going to be easy, okay? So we're going to move on now into a little quiz. So, we'll just do this together. So I want you to put a T for true or an F for false, and we'll just do it in the chat. There's, if you get the answer wrong, it's no point. Actually, I want you to get the answer wrong because it means that you're learning something, okay? So the healing process requires you to fully recover all memories in order to heal your inner child. Is it true or false? Put T for true, F for false in the chat. Amazing little mixture of answers, but this is false. We don't need to unearth all the different memories for us to be able to recover from it. Our body stores the trauma for us, and we can work on it that way. Brilliant. Well done, everyone. Yeah, great. Gold star. Yes, everyone. The next one is inner child healing is only for those with traumatic childhoods. Is this true or false? Oh, we have a mixture of answers again. This is false. We could have I've worked with a client who had the most loving and amazing parents, and they just showered her with love completely, but never prepared her for the real world. And then when she came out and was like, oh, why doesn't everybody give me unconditional love? That created some stuff there for her. So yeah, it doesn't have to be traumatic childhoods at all, okay? So yeah, well done, guys. Another gold star. So inner child healing is a psychological theory suggesting within every adult, there's a part of them which is their inner child. So who's been listening? Who's been listening? True. Ah, true. Again, a little mixture of answers, but yeah, this is true. It's a psychological theory. Well done, guys. Once I heal my inner child healing, oh my God, as you could tell, the English is Englishin, isn't it? Once I heal my inner child, I won't ever face emotional difficulties again. True or false? Amazing. Yeah, it is false. But what I want to say on this one is that when you do the work, then you get to be even more resilient and bounce back and handle these emotional difficulties much better. So yeah, well done, guys. Oh, you have been listening. I'm so excited. Right. So I've said this quite a bit on Instagram, but if you've not been following the Instagram, this might be a question that throws you. So 98% of our DNA is emotional, behavioral, and personality traits, and 2% is our appearance. Is this true or false? Mm. Got a little mixture of answers again. This is actually true. And when I found this out, it blew my mind because I was like, surely like your appearance would be the most. But no, it is actually 98% of our emotional, behavioral, and personality traits get passed down to us from our parents, which is absolutely wild to me. So yeah, well done. And then you have to complete inner child work whilst you're younger for it to truly work. True or false? False. Yes. Clients of all ages can go back and do this work. It doesn't have to be for a specific age bracket. So amazing. Inner child healing can bring up a lot of shame and guilt. True or false? Amazing. Amazing answers, guys. True, it can. It absolutely can. But I think there's a lot of this realizing it isn't our fault as well. But yeah, amazing. Thank you very much. And then the last but not least, it will take years for me to heal from my inner child. True or false? Oh, Emma's like question mark. She's like, I don't know. I love that. I was just like, I've just question mark, I'm done. I don't know. No, it is false. Well done, guys. So yeah, it doesn't have to take years for you to do your healing from your inner child. It does take a little bit of time and everybody is different, but it doesn't have to be intensive years of therapy and things like that to heal from your inner child. It's actually a lot easier than what people think. People just get more apprehensive about like opening the can of worms more than anything. So now I'm going to talk about the brain, and now everyone's going to really switch off. But I'm going to talk about the brain in a way that we can understand, because I used to hate psychology because my lecture would be so like complex with the language and everything. And then I started to learn about it in a way which I could explain it like I'm explaining it to a child. Like that's my mentality. I'm like, if a child can understand it, I can understand it, and we can, and it's actually a bit more interesting than saying all these fancy words. So trauma so trauma in itself is basically an event that overwhelms us and our brain is unable to cope. That is so different for everybody. Somebody could go through a car crash and be absolutely fine, and then you might have somebody else who goes through the exact same car crash and completely cannot cope. Okay, and trauma can be one big event, or it can be a series of smaller events that just lead to this feeling of overwhelm. Okay, so now I want you to think about our hippocampus, which is this cute little thing over there. And imagine this is a filing cabinet. Okay, you have a little filing cabinet, and all our memories go in this filing cabinet. And oh, lovely, there we are, nice and neat. Our little like brain people, or whoever lives in your brain organizing this, has done a very good job. But then we have a rogue trauma memory. Okay, and it doesn't fit in the filing cabinet. It's a different shape. It doesn't fit in. So what happens is it kind of like floats around. That's how I imagine it. It just kind of floats around the brain. And then when we have an emotional trigger, which could be anything, including memories coming back up, past experiences being remembered, you may have events or things that come up again. Somebody might speak to you the same way as somebody did previously, and that sparks you into this trauma response. The trauma response makes you feel like you're living the original event over again. Okay, so then this rogue trauma memory is like pinging all over your brain and is like, ah, like, and that is our trauma response. Okay, so when we don't heal that memory, it still is there to be triggered and pinged around our brain whenever. But when we go back and we look at it and we understand it and we start to heal it, we get to put it into a nice shape and file it in our filing cabinet. So then we stop getting triggered by it. Okay, obviously this is way more complicated in brain talk, but I'm trying to explain it in a really simple way so we can grasp the concept. Can you put 111 in the chat if that makes sense, please? Cool. Look, we're literally going to be like brain surgeons next. We're going to be like, oh my God. So now let's get into a little bit more about the subconscious mind. So now that we know we have this little filing system in our brain, okay? So we have our conscious mind, which I always like to think of it as like the front of the brain. This is our logical part of the brain where we talk about, where logical, we think about things logically. Our subconscious mind is way more emotional, and our subconscious mind is a bit like a hard drive. So you got your computer, and inside you got a hard drive, and even though you delete things, which would be in your conscious mind, it still stores a copy in your subconscious, okay? And everything is stored on your hard drive. The only difference between your brain and a hard drive is that it has infinite memory, because our brains are very, very clever. So it's entirely possible to reprogram our brains. So to reprogram our subconscious, to reprogram the hard drive, okay? We just need to know how, okay? And we're going to talk about that today. So what's so important about inner child work as well is from the ages of 0 to 8, we are programming our beliefs. So this at between the 0 and 8 age, we are like little sponges soaking up everything, and we're taking everything in and forming our beliefs, okay? And actually we are never shown at any other point in our life how to go back and to change these beliefs, okay? So, we're tapping into a wealth of like power here, okay? Because not only will you learn about this, you're going to be able to apply it to any part of your life, okay? But I'm just nice like that, giving you these tools that you'll use for life. And this is something that I say, and like I just really want to just reiterate it, like, is that your reality is the product of your beliefs. So how does this work? Your subconscious mind is always scanning, and it's always seeking out the familiar as well. It's scanning, and then something happens. Somebody says something to you. Okay, before your logical brain has time to kick in, your subconscious brain is like, okay, I need to send this to the front of the conscious mind, and that will impact your reaction to the thing. Okay, so then your subconscious mind shoots the thought forward, then that shapes your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. Okay, so you don't have the time to think about it because this is your belief system that is coming straight in like this. Okay, this is how important it is. Before we have time to be logical, our subconscious mind is calling the shots. Okay, and you want to choose to heal. Don't wait until you have to heal. Don't wait until things get so unbearable that you think, oh shit, I really have to fucking do something about this. Because I've got clients who are there. And when you're deep in that hole, it's harder to get out. When you think, cool, I'm halfway in, I've got a chance, I can see the top, do the healing work then. Don't wait until things are really, really deep. Does that make sense to everyone? Can you put 444 in the chat? Because 444 is good for protection. Amazing. Cool. If we've got any questions at all, guys, please just shove them in the chat. I'm always happy to answer any questions, okay? So how to start healing your inner child? I have created a 3-step program in order, well, it's a 3-step model, which is about foundation, forgiveness, and reprogram. Okay, we will be talking about forgiveness, and I know that this will be a very sore subject for people who are like, how are you asking me to forgive somebody who didn't protect me from the most horrendous things that happened in my life? Or how can you expect me to forgive somebody who did something horrendous to me? I will totally explain the purpose of forgiveness when we get there, but I just wanted to preempt people now, just because we will be going there. So foundation, what is the foundation? Remember earlier in my story, I didn't have a foundation and I was going, what the fuck? Like, I can't cope with anything. This is the sort of stuff that we will recover in foundation. So self-reflection. What are the things going on for you that you don't like? What are your reactions? Is it constantly being anxious that you're going to be abandoned? Is it the perfectionism that cripples you so you work to 10 o'clock at night? Is it the fact that you are always quick to cut off people because you're so avoidant because that's just all that you knew as a child? Have you ever felt truly safe in your body and in you and who you are? These are some good points for self-reflection, okay? And then you need to validate your emotions. You know, when we go back to our childhood, a lot of people hold a lot of shame and guilt. But you know what? It was never your fault. You were never expected to be the adult or the fully functioning, safeguarding person in that situation, okay? You were always meant to just be the child. And that's really important. So I want you to validate yourself. I want you to express the emotions attached to your experience. I want you to say that your emotions are valid and deserving of attention, because sometimes we don't get that from other people. My mum always used to be like, oh, shut up, you're being silly. I remember one instance specifically where I just didn't feel safe and I broke down crying and she just laughed at me. So I had none of that validation of like, you are safe. And that's a big thing I've had to work on. Feeling safe is like, when you say it to people, they're like, what? But I'm like, yes, feeling safe in you and who you are is so important. So validating your emotions, okay? Work on self-compassion, okay? Be kind to yourself, like you would have like a close friend or family. If they came up to you and they were like, oh, I'm going through this, you wouldn't be like, oh, you're shit, get your shit together, come on. You'd be like, oh, I'm really sorry that's happening to you. How can I help? That's the sort of attitude you need to have towards yourself, okay? Set boundaries. When you're going to go through this work, you got to push away the negativity, those vampires who are going to drain your energy, the people you have difficult relationships with. Create a distance. You don't have to get rid of them, because these people might even be your parents for the time being, but creating a distance and communicating your needs and limit, and do not budge. Do not budge, because if you're a bit like me, when I was a people pleaser, I would say yes to everything. And the minute I said no, oh, I was the worst person in the world. Of course I was, because everyone was so used to me saying yes. But no, never, never wave on your boundaries, because these are important. I don't like that, because when I say boundaries, you have to understand that boundaries are rules to keep you safe. That's all they are. So you need to say, I'm setting these rules to keep myself safe. And sometimes that's an easier concept to grab than setting boundaries. Okay, get creative. this is a really beautiful way to connect to your inner child, and also being a bit silly. So you might want to do art, which you just do because it's fun. You might want to write something. You might want to like engage in music. I love to dance, and I love to do silly dance. And like every morning you'll catch me twerking and making my morning coffee. I literally don't care. It's how I just feel like I can express and process my emotions. Okay. And creativity is a great way to connect with your child, like I just said. And self-care practices. This is hard work, so you need to take care of yourself with routines around exercise, mindfulness, hobbies, or activities that bring you joy. Don't become obsessed with doing the work 24/7. You need to have the downtime and the time to process. So get out, try the hobbies, do stuff that brings you joy. And yeah, just be quite mindful of what you're doing. You might want to do some meditation, or you might want to go for a walk in nature. I don't know, whatever you like to do. You might just want to go and get pissed up with your friends. Whatever you want to do, whatever's right for you, whatever's self-care for you, do it. Okay, so that's your stage 1. Okay, stage 2, we've got forgiveness. Okay, now, when I see the penny drop about forgiveness, I'm like, yes, because forgiveness often gets mistaken for for just condoning the behavior. No. We are not forgiving to condone. We are forgiving to accept. This is when I realized this, it was such a game changer, because when we forgive to accept, we accept that the thing happened. We cannot not go back and change it unless somebody's got like a little time machine hanging around. We can't go back and change it. And you know what? We went through something shit. Okay. Why are we still continuing to punish ourselves? Because that's what we're doing when we hang on to the anger, the resentment, the sadness, everything that comes with the feeling around that event or situation, or the thing that mum said, or the thing that dad said, or the way that they behaved. We cannot be mind readers. We don't know what they're thinking about it. And quite frankly, it's none of our business. Our business is us and making sure that we're okay. So when we accept it, we just say, I understand this happened and this is okay. And it's not that it's okay that it's happened, but it's okay for me to accept it. And it's okay for me to let go, because when we let go of all of that emotion that we just don't need. It's a bit like what Buddha says, like, you drink poison and expect the other person to die. Like, that's what anger does to us, and also creates so many health issues for us in our physical body, because anger does just manifest in physical ailments. So guess what? We've been through enough. We don't need to continue to suffer. So I think coming to a stage of acceptance is the first thing, and then letting go is the next one. So the root cause, for example, it's time to do the self-exploration, and this is probably the trickiest part. And if you need help with this, speak to me. I'm always happy to talk about this. I had a conversation with somebody in the DMs the other day, and we were able to track back her root cause. So for example, I'll use the one about shouting. My mum always used to shout at me. That made me want to be perfect so that she didn't shout. That's a really simple one to get your head around, okay? So the root cause was she would shout, so I'd always want to be perfect. Guess what? I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I know, I was devastated when I found out too. But yeah, not perfect, and I don't want to be. I'm quite happy being me, who is a clumsy mess and tipped her tea all over it before we even got on the call this evening. So yeah, like it is what it is. And I decided I didn't want to be perfect. I don't need to be perfect. I don't have to survive anymore. I can thrive. And that's where it changed. And that's why I started to let go. And then we start to look at, that we can't change the past. We can only change the present and the future. The trauma acknowledgement was a game changer again as well. Acknowledging your parents are people with their own trauma, which has played out. This is not an excuse, because guess what? You're here because you want to do the work. You want to do the change. You're being that brave person who's taking a very brave look at yourself. And the healing journey ain't for everyone, my darlings. It just really isn't. Some people are like, I'm not going to do it because I can't do that. And I think we're in a generation now where we do look at ourselves and we do look after ourselves. And the trauma acknowledgement is realizing that behind your dad is a man who probably had trauma. He may not have communicated with you, or you might know that that your grandfather used to hit him, or was highly critical, or nothing was ever good enough for him. And then all of a sudden he becomes highly critical of you, and then you feel the same. So sometimes it's about drawing that comparison and being like, they're actually just human beings, and we remove the stigma that society puts on them, that mums and dads should be perfect, but they're not. So they are just humans with their own trauma and own life experiences, and that's played out, and that's okay. And I think when I realized my mum was a woman with her own trauma, I was actually able to meet her with a lot more compassion and empathy. And that actually was a real big change in our relationship, because I understand why she did things. I knew she didn't do it out of spite or being a horrible person. She just did it because that's all she knew how to do. And again, like I said, the healing journey ain't easy, so it's not for everyone. But if you're here, then it's probably for you. You want to express your emotions. This doesn't have to be directly to your parents or caregivers, but this is about you validating and expressing your emotions. So, like writing a letter to them and burning it. That's a really nice way. Car screaming. I love a bit of car screaming, where you just scream in the car. Like, yeah, you want to roll up to me next, like at the traffic lights? I don't care. Very good. Get those emotions out, okay? But writing letters are a really good thing, and you can give the letters to your parents if you want, but I have no responsibility for the outcome, okay? But yeah, you may want to write it down. You don't need to have that direct conversation to feel valid in your experience. You can validate yourself, okay? Then the forgiveness happens, where you say, okay, I'm going to forgive you. I don't forget. I accept what happened. There was no excuse for it. I don't condone it, but I need to move forward from this. Again, the forgiveness is for you, not for anybody else. And a journal is really, really good to help you get all these thoughts and feelings out. I find like when I'm journaling, it just helps me to clear my mind, and just help you gain clarity and track your healing process as well. It's a really good way to document that. Okay. And then we're going on to the third and final stage, which is your reprogram. Okay. So we're starting to replace those negative thoughts. We're going to challenge them. So, oh, you might have, you may say, I'm not confident. Okay. Why? Because my parents were highly critical of me and nobody was ever good enough. So I'm not confident to be out there, because who would want to talk to me? I just feel like invisible. Well, you need to start telling yourself, I am visible. I deserve to be seen. I'm here. Like, I bring something so beautiful and unique to the world. Every single one of us in this call right now are incredibly unique. None of us are exactly the same. We are unique like little fingerprints. And you know what? If we took ourselves out of like life and we put us into a retail setting, we would be one of a kind pieces, and we would be probably priceless. Imagine a one of a kind car. They're not going to sell that for 50 quid, are they? No, we would be priceless. And that is the same thing about ourselves. But nobody ever tells us that. Nobody ever affirms that to us. That's why we got to tell ourselves. And when you start to say things over and over and over again, we're tapping into that subconscious mind, okay? There will be a little bit of resistance from the subconscious mind because it likes to stay in the familiar. But we're going to tell ourselves, until we are sick of hearing it, the same affirmation. So when we're doing this, we may want to say stuff that we wish our parents had said to us as a child, or if we hold beliefs about ourselves like, I'm not confident, you might want to say, I am confident. Whatever those beliefs are that you want to flip on their head, just take the belief and then think of the opposite, and that is your affirmation, okay? If you get stuck, give me a shout. You want to get playful. Life is too short. What did you want to do as a child? Go do it now. Being playful keeps that connection to our inner child. And what I didn't say earlier is that when we heal our mother and father wound, we literally put it back in our filing cabinet, in our hippocampus. We put it back in our filing cabinet, and we don't have to deal with it again. The only thing that we need to maintain is a good connection with our inner child, which is about being playful. Again, journal them. You know, you want to validate your feelings, and you want to help yourself by writing down affirmations, okay, in your journal every single day. Every day I do affirmations, every day I do gratitude. Why? Because give gratitude for what you have now. Whatever happened to you, whatever happened to you in your life, here you are here, and you are doing the work, and you are trying really hard, and you're taking a brave look at yourself. And you know what? That is something to be so grateful for, and something to be so, so incredibly proud of, okay? So is everybody still with me, or have any questions about the model? Put 111 in the chat if you're good, or any questions. We're good. This is like a lot to take in. So with the recording, you will also get an example of how to implement this plan, okay? So it'll be a very simple example, and just give you an idea of what you can do at each stage, because I felt like yeah, I don't have a time. I don't have a time. I don't have the time to go through it now, but you will get an example of a plan with the recording, okay? So I absolutely love this. A grown-up is a child with layers on. And like for me, that just creates a beautiful vision of like this little child has got all these big grown-up layers on. But also when we look at ourselves like a little onion. If things aren't right at the core, things are not going to be right on the outside. But when things are really happy in the core, you're going to shine brighter than ever. Okay? So let's move on to the next step. You want to create a plan based on the 3-step model. You're going to get an example. Stick to the plan. Take breaks when needed. I think I'm the only coach who will literally say to clients, we need to take a break because things might be really, really intense and we might need to take a break. And that's okay. You might want to just work on one relationship at a time. So you want to go through the connection with yourself. You might want to take a little break for a couple of weeks. And then you might want to come back and do mum, come back and do dad. I always recommend doing the more difficult parent first as well, because that's going to take the most energy. Okay. And forgiveness is different for everyone. So explore how this looks like for you. Hold your boundaries and don't give up because you deserve this happiness. Okay. So if you feel like we've talked a lot about all these different things tonight and I'm feeling really overwhelmed, here's how I can help. Okay. So if you feel stuck in the same behaviors, you have a negative mindset, lack of confidence, feeling unhappy, past trauma, all of the stuff that we talked about earlier, and you're looking to be more living a life for you. You want to have a positive outlook, be confident, be self-assured, let go of past trauma, all of those really good things that we talked about. Then I'm just going to quickly talk about my brand new Inner Child Reset 10-week group coaching program. I'm just going to be a couple of minutes just to talk about what this program is like. So it starts in April, and what you can expect from this program is a chance to finally heal from your parental wounds and move on from your life. So everything that we've talked about today is implemented in this program. You have ability to trust yourself and intuition. You have a chance to break those generational patterns for yourself and those coming after you, creating generational wealth. You become more confident, you embrace self-love, self-esteem, you're in more control of your life, you become more playful again, and you learn skills that you will learn for the rest of your life. The 3-step model that I've shown you, we go into so much depth in this program that you will be able to apply this to any part of your life. Okay. You understand the trauma on the mind, body, and soul as well, because it's a multi-layer thing. You get to be part of a community, because I missed this so much. Going through this was so hard on my own. And it's really an important part of me wants to create a community, to know that people are held and that people can rely on each other for support as well. You get access to me whenever is needed. There is an application process to make sure that it's the right program for you. I'm not in the game of taking money for the sake of taking money. I want this program to benefit the right people. Okay. You create your own self-care foundation. So we do the first part of the project together, the model together, and move on. Throughout the program, we remove trauma from the body, mind, and spirit, and so much more. So let's grab some details. The purpose of this plan is to basically hold your hand through this and walk next to you, arming you with tools that will navigate your experience. Okay. And these are tools you can apply to other areas of your life. It's a 10-week program starting from April 7th, which is a Sunday. All the sessions are online. There's a group chat, so we can all keep in contact with each other during the sessions. There will be pre-work and work every single week between the live sessions. So every week we will have a live session, and it may be an hour, it may be 2 hours, it may be 3 hours, whatever it is, to make sure that we get through everybody and that everybody has a chance to talk about what's going on for them and what came up for them. Okay. And if there's stuff that's still going on, you can always talk to me separately as well. There's an online platform dedicated to this as well, which you can return to anytime. The live coaching sessions will be at the end of the week, and we'll go through things in real time, but also the sessions will be recorded. Like I said, the sense of community, access to me when needed, and it's a small group. So there's a max of 10 people on this program. If you're the person who is like, I need all the details, these are just some of the things that we will be covering in the course in the 10 weeks. So we will be doing the inner child healing, parental wounds, but in depth, how to heal mother wounds, how to heal father wounds specifically, forgiveness for ourselves and others, releasing shame and guilt, reparenting techniques, empowering our relationships and understanding relationships, trauma and its effect on the mind, body, and soul. Trauma lives in all of these places. It's important that we address all three. Attachment styles and how to heal, because you can have an attachment style, but you can move into a secure attachment style. And also celebration of growth. I'm going to teach you how to celebrate yourself, because sometimes we're not taught that either. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. So the most important question, Kirsty, that sounds great, but how much does it cost? $333 for the 10-week program. This includes everything outlined, is no hidden costs. Payment plans are available, but the balance must be paid by the end of the program. And, you know, you're probably thinking like, oh, well, okay, cool, this sounds great. But why does it cost me $1,333 to do this with you one-to-one and only $333 in a group? This is because it's a group program. This is probably the most cheapest it's ever going to be. It's the introductory price of it. And, you know, I think I really want it to be accessible. I try to have things that are really accessible. I know that we're not all millionaires and we can't charge £5,000-6,000 for coaching because it's just not accessible to the people who truly need it. And I am really flexible with payment plans and things like that because I do want it to be accessible to people. I want people to do the work because they want to and they're investing in themselves. And investing in yourself is the best investment you'll ever make. It will not only improve your life, it'll improve the lives of all those around you. So I'm going to leave that there. If you do have questions, if you're interested in signing up, just send me an email or send me a message. I know that out of the 10 spaces, 3 have already gone. We have 7 left. And if you're like, I'm desperate, I really want to be on this, but I'm not sure how to work out the finances, like just contact me straight away and we can reserve a space for you. That's fine. And we can work out the other bits later, because it's just really important for me that people who are motivated to do this work have the access to it as much as they can. But obviously I've got to pay bills somehow. So with all that being said, do we have any questions? We've now officially come to the end of the workshop. And yeah, I've talked everybody's heads off, probably blown everybody away. And now everyone's just, yeah, what are we thinking? Oh, thanks, Sally. Love the workshop. Thank you. But yeah, any questions for me, guys? You may kind of want to go away, rewatch the workshop and come back and ask questions then. There's no pressure. I'm always here to help. If there's anything that you guys need, then just let me know. But other than that, I'm going to give you an entire 6 minutes back of your evening. And yeah, I'm always here to talk, guys, always here to help. And I hope that was helpful. And yeah, sending you guys loads of love. Thanks for joining me. Bye.